Welcome to your frequency. This is Xander Ludena with Universal States of Consciousness. Today, I'm going to talk about spiritual traps that can also lead to spiritual ego. Most people that go through a spiritual awakening do have a tendency to fall into these traps. I personally myself have been guilty of these in certain situations. So it is important that we are aware of these things so that we could stay at our highest frequency. The first issue I would like to address is when we put people on a pedestal. I have noticed many times I have met certain personalities or read certain articles and put these people on the highest pedestal, taking value away from myself and what I can bring to the table. We are all here to teach and learn and help each other grow through this awakening process. But sometimes when we put someone on a pedestal, we observe only their frequency and forget to put out and shine our own frequency. It is very important that we know that no one is above us and we're not above anyone else. An equal distribution of energy and communication is very important for spiritual welfare. For example, when you look at some of these religious rock and roll anthem type of churches and you have all these people worshiping one person instead of worshiping God, they're worshiping the lifestyle, the look, the fancy words, and they're not worshiping their true self or their true nature or their true spirit because they think this person on the pedestal has all the answers. And nobody has all the answers. You could only find the answers within, through prayer and meditation and in connecting with God. Now, that's not to say that leaders and some people can give and provide insightful knowledge. That's something that I think we should all do. But we should also be aware that we have knowledge that we're able to provide, and that not everybody that is providing knowledge just because they're on a higher format means that their format is pure. The second issue I would like to address is spiritual wardrobe and accessories. Yes, I have crystals. Yes, I have some very nice bracelets. But I've noticed that some people take it a little bit too far. They feel that they're showing their spirituality by wearing a certain type of outfit, and there's nothing wrong with expressing yourself and dressing the way that resonates with you, but when you're using it as a spiritual badge to kind of say, hey, I'm of higher value than you because I dress this way, I have more spiritual knowledge, or I'm more connected to source, can be an ego trap as well. Here's one that I really struggle with. It's the vegetarian or the vegan trap. I have personally been trying to go vegetarian for the last 2 years. I'm 90% there. And I do it for my own personal reasons, partially for my health and partially for sacred life and the way that animals are being put down right now. But I've also come across people that have the same sentiment that I do, but I feel like they're constantly judging me or judging others because we have a different philosophy on how or what we should eat. I think it's very important that you allow people to experience their own journey, and you don't have to disrupt everyone else's meal by putting a flag down on the table and claiming that you're keto or a carnivore or a vegetarian or a pescatarian. Just let people be and let people choose their choice. Now, if somebody asks you, that's a whole different story. But I find it very uncomfortable when people tend to hijack the dinner table with their eating beliefs. The next issue I would like to address is spiritual superiority. We all awaken in different levels, and I'm guilty of this as well too, calling people sheep, saying that they're not as aware as I am. But we have to understand that everybody's on a different level, and just because you have received certain knowledge before other people have does not mean that other people are asleep. They're in a process of awakening, or while they're sleeping, that could be used as an interpretation for the masses around them to awake. So they might actually be doing you a favor. We are all on the same level. There's just some of us that have been on this level or on this journey a little bit longer. And we should use our knowledge and our platform to be all-inclusive. And instead of pointing the finger and putting people down, we should just either lead by example or lead through kindness and empathy. An example of this is, let's say you have a friend who's going through a major breakup. Sometimes that friend, all they need is someone to listen to. They're going through a major problem and they just want an ear. They don't want to hear, to find your twin flame, you have to love yourself first. That's not the right time to have that conversation, because that's a spiritual ego and you're kind of reinforcing yourself instead of being empathetic and listening to your friend's problems and what they're going through. Or if someone is going through an unhealthy period and you start preaching to them about eating healthy and how it's affected you, again, you're making the empathy about yourself. You're not taking the time to listen and hear. What I do when I come across these situations that people are, leaning on me and need help, I usually ask them before I give them advice. I say, hey, would it be okay if I give you some advice on this topic? And if they say yes, then I will explain and explore the situations. But we never want to glorify our greatness when somebody else is down, because I've been on the other side of that foot and everything is a boomerang. Just because we're up today doesn't mean that we're going to be up forever, and compassion and empathy is very important when you're dealing with someone that is in need of assistance. There is also something called spiritual bypassing. This is when you think you're so spiritual that you don't have to do your own shadow work, where you say, well, if the universe wants it to work out this way, it's just going to work out this way. And then you don't take action. The universe applauds action. And sometimes when we hit a spiritual level, we tend to think that, well, that's just my destiny. If I'm meant to be safe, I'm meant to be safe. And we become a little bit reckless. So it's very important not to fall into that trap. I mean, I've had it happen to me. I've been at a social gathering or a party, and my intuition is telling me this isn't the right energy, this isn't the right crowd, I should leave. And then I'm like, no, I'm spiritual, I'm protected, whatever's meant to happen is meant to happen. And then something happens at the event, a fight breaks out, or something dramatic happens, and now because I was a spiritual snob, I am now forced to deal with something new that I have to confront from a traumatic experience that I didn't protect myself from because I thought I was so highly protected. It's kind of like having that positive thinking mentality. Yes, we want to be positive thinkers, but we also want to be realistic thinkers, and we also have to think ahead and protect ourselves. Thinking of negative consequences does not mean you're not a positive person. It just means that you're preparing yourself for different scenarios and solutions in case you ever find yourself in a situation where you have to use your spirituality and your human sense, your intuition, to remove yourself from that situation or relationship or career job or whatever it may be. You can't just sit back and say, this is my destiny and the universe is going to take care of me. No, you have to take action. The universe will help you, and you have manifestation powers, but those powers are useless unless you put action behind them. You can't send the universe mixed messages. Another trap that I've also fallen into is the trap to want to help others. Once you begin to awaken and you start acquiring all this knowledge, you just want to share it. You get excited, you feel so alive, and you think that everyone's going to feel and hear what you have to say. But what you don't remember is that you had to go through things in order for you to feel and think of the things that you have to say. And when you're trying to preach that upon others that have not yet experienced the things that they need to go through, you're actually pushing them in the wrong direction. This goes back to listening and hearing with an empathetic heart instead of pointing your finger and trying to change the world overnight. It's not your job to change the world. It's your job to change yourself. That's the only way the world is going to change. It becomes an eternal battle. Because once you change your world, the world around you begins to change for you. Now here's one that I've really struggled with since I have such a large following on Facebook. And that's dealing with trolls, or dealing with people that seem to only come out when they want to attack you. So what happens is I start defending myself, and I spent, an hour of my day arguing with somebody on a different frequency, trying to change their mind. And all they're really doing is making my heart beat fast, lowering my vibration, and making me feel anger. So sometimes you just have to walk away from those people. I'm not saying you can't defend yourself. Some spiritual people think that you should just let anything slide, and it's okay to not defend yourself. Obviously, we're in a position right now where we have to defend our earth and what's happening. So it's okay to be vocal, but don't let it go too far where it takes you out of your game. I used this example in another video. If you go underwater and try to convince a fish to come out and breathe air, you will eventually drown in their environment. So it's okay to protect yourself, but just don't get so caught up where you lose yourself. Now, a lot of spiritual people have a really hard time after they awaken to return to a 9-to-5 job. And a lot of them start seeking out modalities like plant medicine work, or they work in a crystal shop, or they become Reiki practitioners, or different type of hypnotherapy. But sometimes people have a hard time charging for their services. Now, exchange of money is basically an exchange of energy. So don't feel guilty if you study something that you're going to provide to another person to help them out, and they chose you to help them. It's okay to exchange money or energy for the services that you provide for several reasons. One, you still have to provide for yourself. Two, let's look at this example. I know everyone goes to a restaurant and they give you a bunch of napkins. Usually we wind up using 1 or 2 of those napkins, and the rest of them we throw them away, which is a complete waste. Now imagine if those napkins cost 10 cents a piece. How much more value we would put into those napkins. See, when we charge people for our services and they pay for their services, they're actually investing their energy. They had to work to gain energy, to provide that energy, to take the energy that you're giving to them. It's a monetary exchange, but it's also an exchange of energy. And when people don't vest their energy into what you're providing them, they're not going to take it as seriously. You're just going to be those leftover napkins that we throw away. I hope that makes sense. I'd like to talk about the warning signs of a spiritual person or a spiritual snob that might not be who they think they are, where they're preaching one thing, but their behavior is completely in a different direction. Let's say someone says censorship is wrong, and they want everyone to have freedom of expression until the point where you disagree with them, and then they ban you from your group. This is not the true way to be. You should always let people agree and disagree as long as it's respectful. There's a lot of people out there it's my way or the highway, and they have the answer to everything. And when you're dealing with people like that, I would run away as fast as possible. And lastly, I just want to say that, we're all here to learn, and when we learn, we're actually teaching. I have found many times when I am communicating with people that need help, that are sitting there appreciating the help that I'm giving them, I'm baffled at the words that I'm channeling and the knowledge that I'm getting from the opportunity that they have given me, the trust that they have given me to communicate my knowledge with them. It's almost like a higher self or a higher dimension is tapping into me, because this person and their experience is allowing me to channel words of wisdom to them. So it's a beautiful thing, and I hope everybody experiences it. I want to thank everyone for watching this video and for being part of my journey. And I especially want to give a shout out to all my members at Universal States of Consciousness on our Facebook group and our Telegram group. And we also just created a new video Universal States of Consciousness group. I'll have all the links below, and I'm looking forward to continuing on this journey with all of you. Thank you.